In this next video, we're going to continue with topic 08, which is factoring. But now we're going to factor when the number in front of x squared is bigger than 1. So we're going to have an a that is greater than 1 this time. Here, you're going to have a few more steps, but the main steps that you're using are the same as when a is 1. So I'm going to start by setting up my factors. Here, I'm going to set up parentheses. And I usually put whatever it starts with. So 2x and 2x. That doesn't make sense right now because 2x times 2x is 4x squared. But we're going to do a step at the end that corrects it. So for now, we set it up like that. Then I'm going to fill in my blanks. Here it's different from when a is 1. You're not going to use c. You're going to have to take your first number a and multiply it times c. So I have to do 2 times 3. That gives me 6. So my top blank this time is equal to a 6. So you have to multiply AC there. That step's a little different. Now your B is the same, so we're going to use 5. And now I can make a list of numbers that multiplies to 6. Like 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. And I want to see which of those will give me 5. Both, if you add or subtract, will get 5. But here, since everything's positive, that means we're going to have to use addition. So my pair is going to be 2 and 3. And if we do our check, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 plus 3 is 5. So now I can fill in my factors. I have a positive 2 and a positive 3. Here, we're going to do one extra step that you didn't do before. Because right now, it doesn't make sense. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2 times 3 is 6, not 3 like this one ends with. So on this step, you're going to have to do something where you divide each factor by a greatest common factor if possible. So if we look at our first factor, we have a 2 and a 2. 2 and 2, the biggest number both of them can be divided by is 2. So we're going to actually divide these both by 2. Here my 2x divided by 2 is 1x, or just x. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that simplifies my first factor. In my second factor, the biggest number that 2 and 3 can both be divided by is 1. So it's going to stay the same, 2x plus 3. So these would be my factors for the problem. If you do a quick check, so if I do a quick check here, x times 2x will give me the 2x squared, and 1 times 3 will give me the 3. So that looks similar to the problem we have, so we know we're on the right track. If you look at problem 2 now, I'm going to set up my factors. This time I'm going to start each one with 6m. And before I set up my blanks, this time I'm going to have to do a times c. So 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. So my first blank is going to equal negative 18. My second blank equals my middle number, my b, or 7. Now I'm going to make a list of numbers that multiplies to 18. I'll worry about the negative later. So 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Now I want to choose a pair from that list that I can add or subtract to get 7. The only one that will work is 2 and 9, because if you do 9 minus 2, you get 7. Since we have to subtract, that means one of them has to be negative. So if I want positive 7, my bigger number has to be positive. So the negative would have to be my smaller number, a 2. Now if I check, negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. Negative 2 plus 9 is 7. So I would fill in negative 2 and positive 9. Now there's that extra step where you have to divide by a greatest common factor. So if we look at our first one, the biggest number that 6 and 2 can be divided by is 2. So this simplifies. 6 over 2 becomes 3m, and 2 over 2 becomes 1. If I look at my second factor, the biggest number that 6 and 9 can be divided by is a 3. So I'm going to divide both of those by 3, and that becomes 2m plus 3. So these would be my factors. Now if I do a quick check, 3m times 2m is 6m squared, like what we start with here. And negative 1 times 3 is negative 3, like what we end with here. So you can do that quick check to see if you're on the right track. Our last problem, they're using the letter H, so I'm going to go ahead and set up my factors here. Both of them are going to start with a 2H this time. And now I'm going to do my first step where I multiply A times C. So 2 times negative 40 equals negative 80. Now I can set up my blanks. Blank times blank is negative 80. Blank plus blank equals our middle number, which is negative 11. So here I'm going to make a list of numbers that multiplies to 80. Remember, we worry about the negative later. So 1 times 80, 2 times 40, 4 times 20, 5 times 16, 8 times 10, and I believe those are all of them. So once you have your list, now we're going to check if there's a pair there that adds or subtracts to give me 11. So if I check, I can subtract 16 minus 5, and that'll give me 11. So 5 and 16 will be my pair. Now I can worry about the negative. Since we have to subtract them, that means one of them is going to be negative. I want negative 11, so the bigger number has to be negative. Now if I do my check, 5 times negative 16 is negative 80. 5 plus negative 16 is negative 11. If they both work, you know you did it right. So now I can fill in my factors. I have a positive 5 and a negative 16. Remember, we have one last step here where we divide. So the biggest number, 2 and 5, can be divided by is a 1. So that's going to stay the same. On my next parentheses, the biggest number, 2 and 16, can be divided by is 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. Remember, 1H and H means the same thing. And 16 divided by 2 is 8. So these would be my two factors. Now we do our quick check. 2H times H would give me 2H squared. And 5 times negative 8 would give me negative 40, which matches the first and the last term of our expression.